Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Global Grill. Today we're going to the country of Germany. So as a country, Germany is known for its political and social reform over the years. So they've come up with a variety of delicious and amazing dishes. So today we have our chef Tessie here, who will be introducing one of the dishes from Germany. Tessie, what will we be making today?
So today we're going to be making Rouladen. It's a very classic German dish.
Okay, so let's get started with our ingredients.
So we have 2 cups of onions and chopped. I put it separately because we're going to be using it at separate times. 1 cup of carrots, 1 cup of celery. These are pickles that I cut into half. So you can have...
Pickles are just cucumbers, right? That have been in a pickling juice?
Yes, and they love pickles, so this is a must to have.
Okay.
Parsley that's chopped. These are bacon bits. You could use bacon and just cook it up in oil and you're ready to go. That's mustard. It's a spicy mustard that they love to eat. Some cornstarch, about 1 cup. And 4 tablespoons of tomato paste. We have the beef that, you can go to the butcher and get it sliced nicely thin because we're going to be rolling.
Is there a specific cut we have to use?
Yes, round beef is preferred because it's easier to mash up and stretch it out a little more.
More malleable.
Malleable, yes.
Okay, so what's this?
This is broth. We're working with beef, so we have beef stock. If you want to use vegetable stock, chicken stock, there's a variety. We have some oil. We have salt and pepper. Just 1 cup of water for the cornstarch and toothpicks because we're going to roll it up and to keep it in place.
Okay, so let's get started.
Yes. So Shani, now that we've seen all the ingredients, let's get to sauteing the onions.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna put on the heat, put it on to medium, let it heat a little bit. I'll take this off. You don't need too much oil because it's only 1 cup of onions, but just enough to reach the bottom so it doesn't burn.
So just enough oil to coat the bottom, right?
Yeah, that's good enough.
So what's the purpose of sauteing the onions?
So what we're gonna do is, before rolling it, we're gonna put the onions on the inside. So having it already sauteed, it makes it easier for the beef to cook in the sauce that we're gonna make.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna pour this in. So I'm just gonna mix this up and saute it, and all it needs to do is, become golden, translucent. It doesn't need to be anything. It doesn't need to become brown. Just enough that it's sauteed. And in Germany, this is their secret ingredient for when they saute onions is parsley.
Parsley. Does it give it an extra flavor?
Yes. So just enough to for the onions. You don't need too much.
So now you're in on the very inside secrets of the German chefs.
Yes. And as you can hear the sizzling, just keep mixing it around and saute it. We're going to continue to saute this, and once it's nicely sauteed and translucent, we're going to put it into the refrigerator for 10 to 20 minutes because you want it to cool before we roll it up in the beef.
Okay.
And we'll come back to roll up the beef.
Okay.
So Shani, now that we've already sauteed our onions and it's been sitting in the refrigerator for 10 to 20 minutes, we're ready to roll our beef. But if you're in a rush and you don't have 20 to 30 minutes, just put it in the freezer for 15 minutes. Not too bad. And you're ready to go. So now I'm just gonna get our beef. Thank you. I'm just gonna pat it with the tissue so that all the excess water, not too much because you want to keep the juice of it.
So Tessie, did it come like this or did you make it into that shape?
I made it into this shape. So you can ask the butcher to slice it very thin. You want it 1/4 inch thick. But if you're in a rush and you don't want to do that, you can just go home, take a pounder, and just pound it and stretch it out. Thank you. So just to put a little bit of salt and pepper.
I can always help you. Your hands are nice and meaty.
Yes, that would be actually perfect. And you have to put it on both sides. You can put the pepper at the same time.
Okay. So you're just flavoring both sides of it right now?
Yeah. Okay. You can put a little more black pepper. And so this is your preference. You can put less salt, you can put more black pepper, whatever you're used to, you can put it. Now let's get ready with our rolling, right? So first, before we roll it, we're gonna put in our mustard. This is a little spicy. If you don't have a spicy mustard, just get some mustard. Put a little bit of paprika in it, and it's good.
So do you put the mustard based on how thick the meat is?
So mine is a little thicker, so I'm just gonna put a little bit more of mustard so that you have the nice mustardy taste inside of it.
Now let's say wherever you're from, if you don't have mustard, is there any alternative you can use to mustard?
It would be good if you have the mustard, but if you don't, you could use mayo, mayonnaise. Okay, now that we put the mustard, just gonna take some bacon bits. As I said before, if you don't have bacon bits, just take a little, fresh bacon and just heat it up in some oil and you're good to go.
Okay, so that probably gives it like a nice crunchy texture.
So you can put it all the way around. I'm just putting in that certain place because we're gonna be rolling it up.
Okay.
So if you love pickle, you can keep the big piece. If not, you can cut it into half, and if you're allergic or you don't like it, just take it out.
Just leave it all together.
Yes.
But I'm sure this is perfect and it looks so colorful to see.
Thank you. Okay, now we're just gonna put some onions, just enough to cover this up. So I'm just gonna use my hands here, spread it out a little bit. Okay, and now we're ready to roll. So you're just gonna I'm gonna pull this pickle a little bit back, roll this over, and take it over like this. I want you to, I hope that you're learning because I want you to do it next.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it was easy enough, I think. This is a dish that you can use to impress others, but it's simple enough that you can make at home, I think, right?
Yes. And sometimes, because you put a lot of mayo or a little bit of extra ingredients inside, it'll overflow. That's okay, because we're gonna be cooking it in the broth and it's perfect. It's just gonna go all together. So may I have a pick? Thank you. Just stick it through. So we're gonna do the rest of it and we'll come back with the ready and rolled up roulade. So Shani, we have it all rolled up, and Shani was great in helping me roll it up, and we're ready to go.
She's a good teacher.
Thank you. So now just get a saucepan, and we're gonna turn this on. Put it to like medium to high heat, and just put enough oil to, because we're not gonna fry the beef. We're just gonna cook each side.
Okay, so you just want a nice brown color.
Just a nice brown color.
You don't want any of the beef to stick to the actual pan, right?
Exactly, or else it's just gonna burn and you don't want that. You just want it to brown, you don't want it to overcook because we're gonna cook it again in the broth.
Okay. Do you have to wait for the oil to get hot or you could just go ahead and put it in?
We're gonna wait a little bit, but it should be ready by now.
Yeah, it looks hot, so.
Carefully take your beef. It's starting to sizzle. You hear the sizzling, that's what you need.
So we can go ahead and put all of them in at once?
If you have a smaller saucepan, be a little careful. I'm used to this, so it's okay. I'm putting like all 4 pieces. And lower the heat if it's starting to get very hot. So we're just gonna let it cook on each side, brown a little bit, and we'll come back. Shani, as you can see, the meat has nicely browned. You just want to make sure it's not too pink, just enough that each side is brown. Now let's get to the sauce.
Yes, because this looks good enough on its own, but if we're gonna put it in sauce, I can't wait to see what you do.
It's a little heavy when you think about it, all the meat and the stuff inside the meat and then the sauce on top of that. It's very heavy, but that's what German people love. They love heavy food, and they're not eating this for breakfast, they're eating this for like lunch or for dinner. And you probably know lunch is like their big meal.
Yes, so this looks like a typical big German lunch.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna heat up the stove, and I'm using the same pot that we used to brown the beef because it has all of the oils and it's just perfect with the sauce that you're gonna make. Just put it to medium heat, you don't want it too hot. I'm gonna put in the onions.
This is a cup of onions?
This is a cup of onions. And we're not gonna put the parsley because we already put in the parsley. Remember how I said it was the secret ingredient? I'm gonna ask if you can put the carrots in.
Of course.
Thank you.
And this is how many carrots?
This is 1 cup of carrots, and the celery too. So for this dish, they use carrots and celery. If if you want to do a different vegetable, you can do so. But this is what they're very popular with. I'm just gonna stir this up very nicely. And if your pot, if the oil is not there and it's reached to the bottom, just start scraping it with a spatula that's not gonna break your pot.
So we have a lot of veggies too, so it's not just meat.
Exactly.
We've got some vegetables too.
If you can look closer, you can see there's some brown on the vegetable, and it's because of the fat from the beef, and it just smells amazing too.
How long do you have to cook this for?
So just enough. I'm just gonna mix it up for just to make sure that it's nicely mixed well, and now we're gonna put in the tomato paste.
So this is just tomatoes?
This is just tomatoes made into a paste. I'm gonna use 4 tablespoons. If you want to use less, it's totally fine. It can become a little overpowering. I'm just gonna use another spoon to take this off. The paste can become very sticky. Thank you. So this is 4 tablespoons of tomato paste. I'm just gonna mix it around.
Wow, I can immediately smell that tomato.
Right? It's very powering, so if you don't want too much, you could just lessen the ingredients. And Shiny, can you pour in the broth?
How much should I pour?
You can pour in the whole thing. This is 32 ounces of beef broth. Typically, for Germans, they love to eat their food with wine. I'm substituting that by putting in a little bit more broth, but if you have wine and you love to have wine in your dishes, you can just add the wine for the taste.
32 ounces.
Exactly. That's just the amount we need. And now that it's nicely mixed, we're just gonna put in our beef. So as I said before, carefully. If you have a string, you can wrap the beef if you don't want to use toothpicks. That's totally fine. I'm gonna use a little bit more broth because I want the beef to be covered. Thank you. Not too much, but just enough. That's good enough.
And are you using unsalted kind, so you can always adjust how much salt you like?
Exactly. And now what we're gonna do is I already preheated the oven to 350 degrees, and we're just gonna put this into the oven. I'm gonna cover it with the lid, and we're gonna come back in an hour and a half.
So stay tuned.
Yes. So Shani, this rouladen has been in the oven for an hour and a half.
It looks good, smells good.
I know, it's delicious, and it's amazing that we're making a German dish today. So let's get started with taking out the beef.
Okay.
Because it's very gentle. Just if you have tongs, just take the tongs. And we still have our toothpicks on it so that it stays intact. And the process that I'm doing is I'm trying to make the sauce that has been cooking with the beef for an hour and a half to thicken. And we're gonna use cornstarch for that. If you have flour, you can use flour instead of cornstarch, but this would be better.
So just put that to the side?
To the side. And now we're just gonna I'm gonna put this on. to about medium heat. And we're gonna just put tablespoon after tablespoon. I'm gonna ask for your help to do that.
So this is just cornstarch and water.
Yes. Just make sure you mix it very well, because when you put it together, it can harden on the bottom.
So I'm just gonna put in a couple of tablespoons. You tell me whenever, okay?
Yeah, just put in about 3 tablespoons for now. I'm gonna mix it at the same time. That's good. You'll feel the sauce starting to thicken. If it starts to stick to your spatula, it should be ready. So you can start putting a little bit more, little by little.
Now cornstarch doesn't really have a taste, right? It's more just to thicken the sauce.
Exactly, and it happens very fast. So just keep an eye on the actual food when you're using cornstarch, because it can thicken very fast. And we used a lot of broth, so it does take a little time.
You want more?
Yeah, I think a little bit.
And it tends to settle, I think, towards the bottom, the cornstarch.
Yeah.
So far, I think we've put in about 6 tablespoons or
Yes.
7, 6 or 7 tablespoons.
6 or 7 tablespoons. Okay, as you only can tell the thickness as you're stirring it, because it's very liquidy with the broth. As you put in the cornstarch, which we used all of it, but it thickened very nicely. So just be a little, keep an eye when you put in the cornstarch. Put it little by little, because it can thicken very fast.
And you can tell immediately, right? It starts to get really thick.
Yeah. So I'm gonna turn this off. I'm just gonna put this to the side. And I'm gonna use a little soup ladle. Yeah, ladle. And I'm just gonna use a strainer, because we just want the we just want the sauce.
Oh, I see what you're doing. So you just want the sauce, and you're just gonna put the vegetables to the side, right?
If you want the vegetables, you can add it in later, but for this recipe, they don't keep the vegetables, they actually throw it out. It's actually the sad part. But if you want the vegetables, you can just keep it in your dish.
Yeah, because it almost actually looks and smells like soup.
Exactly. You could just drink it as soup if you want. I think that should be good enough for our beef. We can start plating it, and we'll be right back. Thank you, Shani, for helping me put this in here. Now we're just gonna go do our plating.
Okay.
So we're gonna use our tongs again.
I like this little arrangement you have here. We have some
thank
bread,
you.
we have some parsley, right?
Yes. They love their color, so this will be perfect. I'm just gonna put all of them in here. I think we only need 2 for now.
Do we keep the toothpicks in here?
We can take it out. You actually can do that right now as I pour in the sauce.
And amazingly, they're actually keeping their shape.
Thank you. I'm just gonna pour the sauce over. Just enough there.
Okay, so how do I eat this?
So, because it's been cooking for a very long time, you don't really need a knife, but we can try.
Wow. I've never had German food this good, Tessie.
Nice and tender.
It's very flavorful. The meat is perfectly seasoned. The onions just add that burst of flavor, and then I can taste every component.
Just
perfect.
taste the pickle, right?
Great job, Tessie.
Thank you.
So if we ate it with the bread, we would just take a bite of the bread?
Yeah, so you can just take a piece of it, dip it in the sauce, and you're good to go.
It's almost like gravy.
Literally.
Now Germany is very rich in its food. What are we making, Tessie?
Today we're going to be making Apfelkuchen, and it's just a variation of apple cake that's made around the world, but this one's particularly from Germany because of the ingredients that we're using.
Sounds good. Let's go over the ingredients.
Yes. So we have 4 apples here that's cut in 2 different ways. One is sliced in cubes, which is gonna go for the filling, and then the other is for the topping of the actual cake. We have a soft butter, so if your butter is still cold, just heat it up in the microwave for 15 seconds. We have 1 cup of flour, half a cup of sugar, 3 eggs, apricot jam. We're just gonna use a pinch of salt, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, and 2 tablespoons of milk. For the lemon, we're not gonna use the lemon, we're gonna actually use the zest of it.
Okay.
So just 1 tablespoon of that. And finally, our vanilla extract. I'm just gonna show the bowls where this is just a mixing bowl, and this is the plate we're gonna use for the actual cake.
Okay, so we have everything we need. Let's get started.
Yes. So Shani, we have, this is gonna be the plate we're gonna be using to make our cake. I already greased it with butter. If you don't have butter, if you don't have too much butter, just if you have cooking spray, just spray it around and put it to the side.
Could you also like line it with parchment paper?
Yes, you can do that too. There's a variety of things you can do. So I'm just gonna use this bowl and we're gonna start mixing our ingredients. So can you pass me, let's do dry first. Let's go with flour. Thank you. I'm gonna put half this, so this is 1 cup of flour, half a cup of sugar. Thank you. This is 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Just wanna make sure it's exactly that amount.
And that just helps it rise, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we're gonna be baking it, so it shouldn't be a problem about that. Just mixing it around for a little bit. Okay, and then now you can put in that milk.
All of it?
And so this is 2 tablespoons of milk. So Shani, can you put a pinch of salt in here? Thank you. We're gonna put the butter in.
Should I just put it all in
Put
at
the whole
once?
thing, yeah.
Oh wow,
Yes.
nice and soft.
You want it nice and soft, so it's easier to mix it with the
Wow.
whole mixture.
And if you don't have it this soft, you could always microwave it. But this is perfect. Wow.
Yeah. If you're gonna put everything together, you can put it outside and you don't even have to microwave it. It'll become room temperature. And then I'm gonna need the lemon zest.
Okay. How much do you need?
You can put 1 teaspoon of that.
1 teaspoon.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start mixing this. You can put it in. That's good. And then can you put a little bit of juice of the lemon without
Sure.
the
And we
seed?
have some seeds. Yeah, so I'm just gonna hold my hand over it so we don't get any in.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Thank you.
What is the consistency you're looking for when you do this?
So I'm gonna put the eggs and it's gonna become, have you made pancakes? It's gonna become that consistency.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So we're gonna put the eggs 1 by 1 and I'm gonna mix it as she puts it in. And then after that we put in the apples and we're ready to put it into our plate.
Let me know when.
You can put the next one. And the last one. Thank you, Shani. So as you can see, it's this is the consistency, just a little peak.
Right. I see. As soon as you put the eggs in, like it became a little bit more liquidy, which is what you want, right?
Exactly. And now we can put in the apples.
Okay.
And for that, I'm gonna take out the mixer. We don't need this anymore.
You want the cubed ones, right?
Yes, the cubed ones. Okay, now that we mixed it very well, I'm just gonna eject this from here. Put this to the side. I'm gonna ask for your help using the spatula just to take out the excess.
Sure. We don't want to waste a single bit of the batter, right?
Exactly. It's our apple pie. Apple cake. And now I'm gonna ask for the cube, thank you, the cubed apples, and we're just gonna fold it in.
Okay, so little by little?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put in about a third.
Thank you. And this batter should be enough to fold in. So this is 2 apples, and this should fold in all of it. Should cover each and every single one of them. You can continue. That's good.
It looks like the ratio of apple to batter is a little bit more apple, but I mean, it's an apple cake.
Exactly. You want it, when you cook it and you bake it, the apples start to,
shrink.
Shrink, so it's okay.
Can I put the last bit?
Yes.
This is 2 apples, right?
Mm-hmm. And cut into cubes. If you want it smaller, if this cubes is too big for you, you can cut it smaller. So when you're biting into the cake, it's not too big for you.
This looks perfect.
Yes. And now I'm just gonna ask you to hold that, and we're just gonna pour this in here. So as I said, this is already greased with butter, and I'm just gonna pour it in so I don't have to worry about it sticking to the sides or to the bottom. And it's good if you're using a spatula, you can spread it out nicely. And after we put this in, we're just gonna top it with the apples. So you can make it at home like anytime. And you could say it's from Germany. So now we can do this. This is gonna be like a team effort. So I'm gonna start from the middle.
So it's like a decoration.
Yes, you wanna make sure you be very careful with the top so it looks very nice. And I'm gonna make like a spinning wheel at first. So we're just gonna put this into the oven for 350 degrees, and it's gonna take 45 minutes. We'll be right back. Shani, it's been 45 minutes. It's been sitting in the oven. You can see the apples nicely mixed in with the flour and stuff, and it's nicely brown. We're just gonna cut from the edge, just for us.
And it smells amazing.
Okay, I'm just gonna take another piece.
We have the whole cake. We're gonna eat it later.
Yes. And on top of that, I'm gonna give you this. You could just put some apricot.
And did you do anything specific to the jam, or it's just straight from the jar?
So you just heat it up a little bit. Yeah, that's good.
Fine.
It's an apple cake, nice and soft. With the apricot jam, it's just perfect.
This is really good.
Thank you.
You can actually taste the nice, rich, buttery, all the components that we put in there. And the apricot jam is like the perfect topping. Nice and sweet and almost a little bit tart. You know what? I'm sure Hansel and Gretel wish that they had this in the forest.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Tessie, for making this
Anytime.
delicious dish and giving us a little taste of Germany.
Yes.
I hope to see you back again.
Thank you.